to mute all the participants, and you have an option to unmute yourself so that we don't get startled by all the people coming in and noises and such. All right, so I will start sharing my screen. And so if you see, also Zoom thing, if you see so many icons of people, there are options to choose only active speaker. If you drag your mouse over whoever's my face, there's panels, thumbnail videos, speaker video, and so I'll make sure I'm recording. Hold on. Okay. So. Okay, it is recording, so we'll go back to my sharing things. All right, well, welcome, finally, welcome. This is a webinar about imposter syndrome. So when people are feeling like a fraud, imposter syndrome, and I'll get to the title later, why I'm talking about treasure undercover. So imposter syndrome, or phenomenon, I'll start with a little definition, is an experience of feeling incompetent. It's not really a condition, it's just a psychological subjective experience of feeling not good enough, where people feel like they don't deserve their accomplishments, their praise. They internally feel like a fraud. So it feels like, you know, like a constant need to look smart to others, like you don't deserve to be in the position you're in, like you don't know what you're doing. You may be afraid of being called some title and thinking things like, I was just lucky, why me? And when people, you know, thoughts that come, this is a approximate data chart. This is I found this very beautiful, pretty pictures on somebody's website, and she's a expert on imposter syndrome, and I love them. So, of course, your thoughts when somebody says that, you know, somebody gives you praise or somebody says something like you would do so well doing this, you start questioning yourself. You start second guessing, you start thinking, you know, maybe they're just trying to be nice. And of course, when you think like this and when you feel like this, you act correspondingly. So you short sell yourself, you try to work harder, your very often response to not feeling good enough is trying to do more and more and more, and perfectionism kicks in, and the never-ending hard work that I'll tell you a little bit about more later, but it seems to not help. People who experience imposter syndrome, they are often very controlling and they don't like uncertainty. They like things that will guarantee success, so they're not very prone to risk. So this is how we look at it and how it feels, what your thoughts and feelings are. Now I'll tell you a little bit about myself, who I am, and why I talk about this. I've seen some people whom I know and some whom I don't know. So this will be a little introduction. I grew up in Ukraine. I am an environmental scientist and atmospheric scientist by training. So I studied in Ukraine and also in the US in several universities. I did research. I researched smoke from forest fires using lab instruments in Wyoming, and then using data from satellites, using many global models, comparing them both at Purdue and at NASA Goddard. And then at some point, I shifted my focus from science to scientists, and I studied to become a coach. So I was certified in 2 schools in Ukraine, and then graduated from IPAC in the US. So that gave me a certified professional coach title. Also, several months ago, I guess, beginning of this year, I started deeper research into the topic of good girls. So, hold on, let me. I wanna make sure I see the chat. Okay, into the topic of good girls, and those are the people who are overachievers. They experience imposter syndrome, among the first. They are women and good girls and good boys, good, this trying to fit themselves into this criterion of being everything for everybody, being nice, being too overworked because you're trying to please everybody else. You don't have boldness to say no. You don't have boldness to, you forgot even how to stand your boundaries. You forgot how to define your wishes. You forgot how to defend your desires. You forgot you had desires. And so I help those people discover their real powerful inner self, the one that they've been craving, the one that makes them comfortable, and the one that makes them feel uncomfortable when they don't stand up for themselves. I started the project Good to Real, which is not yet technically made, but I'm talking about it, and I am producing webinars like this that help people like this overcome this difference between what they project to the world and how they perceive themselves. My husband is a software engineer, so I've been a wife for a few years, and I have 4 children. I love learning. I guess that's why I stayed in school for so long. And I am also Barbara Scher's definition of scanner, ISTJ and Myers-Briggs scale, and PLI assessment type 3-5, if it tells anything to anybody. So imposter syndrome. So first thing I thought about it, first time I thought about it was when we were talking with my friend who is also a PhD and who is also a, she works at a very prestigious university with different government projects, and we mentioned this imposter syndrome, and I was thinking, well, I'm not a specialist in it, but the more I thought about the good girl phenomenon and the imposter syndrome, the more similarities I found and the more it clicked, because they both are about the difference that things that people see in us and things that we think of ourselves. And so this was my first part. And also I've been in academia for so long, I've been working with scientists and researchers for long enough. I have met so many smart people who haven't thought much of themselves. And so when I talk about imposter syndrome, I want to ask you this. What are your expectations and maybe goals for this webinar? I would like to, if I may, ask this and maybe remember to address some of those as we go. Chat.
Hi.
Yes.
This is Sam. So I am familiar with imposter syndrome, and I'm just sort of, it seems like everyone experiences it in a little bit of a different way. And so I'm curious to learn about sort of any commonalities in either the way that to help people identify that they're experiencing symptoms, or methods to help people deal with some of the feelings and be in a more healthy place.
Okay, thank you. Oh, people talk, that's amazing. So I got this, different ways and different symptoms and how to deal with them. So when I was thinking about my intention, my goal for today's webinar, so I thought of, my first thought was to first normalize, and of course, as you said, everybody feels it, nobody talks about it. So first, show you that indeed a lot of people are subject to it, and also I will give you tools, or you will get some of them as we go, but also my intention is to go through several ways we look at the reality, and I'd like to challenge some of those ways. As a coach, this is what I do. I ask questions and challenge what you think is the only way to look at it. And so as you go, you will pick up some tools, but also I hope you get a different perspective on how else you can think about certain things. So, and as I go, my intention is to start with more general criteria and outward parameters, like what we believe about our jobs, the people who we work with, and progress more inside to what we believe about ourselves, what we, how we interact with the world and our beliefs about it. So let's start here. Well, first, I'd like to talk more about the imposter syndrome, some just general definitions. So it was introduced by Dr. Pauline Clance, who is a psychologist in the 1970s, and there has been a wealth of research done on it since then. In most of the talks I heard, most of the things I read, the figure of about 70% of successful people who feel it. So a lot, those who admit to feeling it, successful people, the outward success as we understand it. So everybody knows about it, only few talk about it. Some people who know they have it, some people suspect they have it, some people, and of course, it is manifested, people feel it differently, so it can be uncomfort with accepting praise, it can be taking your accomplishment for granted. Of course, the first thing you do when you meet a topic, what do? You go watch TED Talks, because that's where the front of the human thought happens. And so that's what I did. And an interesting thing happened. One of the speakers, she comes out and she said a phrase that stuck with me. She said, I have a friend who said, if I can graduate with a PhD in astrophysics from Caltech, anybody can. Well, duh, that's exactly what I thought. If I can be at NASA, anybody can. And so, but a lot of people are, they feel special in the wrong way about it. They think that, they don't maybe verbalize it, but there is a feeling of nobody knows, I can't talk about it. So the way out of it is to actually talk. And unless you change your attitude, the initial reaction of working harder doesn't necessarily help, because you see this inside circle of competence. That's the stuff you know. Around it is the stuff you should know, or you think you should know. And then it's the stuff you don't know. And so the more you know, the more your circle grows. So the area that you think you should know grows with it. And so the higher you get, the more, the higher positions you achieve, unless you learn to accept it, unless you learn to deal with it, it's gonna get worse. It is not only a professional thing, it manifests itself in many areas of life. You can be an artist, teacher, manager, scientist. You can feel like a not good enough mother. You can feel like a not good enough teacher. Any area of life, you can feel like you don't deserve whatever you have. And when you think about it, you know, we feel uncomfortable when we're learning. Growth is uncomfortable. And people who settle in the very positions that are lower than their capabilities, people who don't strive, people who don't do difficult stuff, yes, they feel comfortable, but they're not growing. So you can make a choice to go and do something that is not challenging for you, but how interested will you be? And then once we understand that this growth, this learning is part of the deal, this uncomfort associates itself with growth. And so it becomes more okay to accept it because we know the source of this discomfort as from learning. We don't know everything. That's why we feel like we're incompetent. So another interesting thing was we are in good company. Those are only very few of people who I put their faces on, who admitted to feeling like an imposter. And I will read you some of the quotes from these people. People who are highly educated, highly, you know, who have achieved really great successes in life. I was surprised to see, for example, Albert Einstein on it. But I found a quote that a month before his death, he confided to a friend saying, "The exaggerated esteem in which my life work is held makes me very ill at ease. I feel compelled to think of myself as an involuntary swindler." You know, people like Kate Winslet, who has a separate Wikipedia page on her awards alone. Like, she said, "What people really think of me is something I remain blissfully unaware of most of the time. I love acting and all I ever try to do is my best. But even now I always dread those emotional scenes. I'm there thinking, oh my God, I'm rubbish and everyone's going to see it. They've cast the wrong person. But I have come to realize that those nerves are all part of the process for me." So some people do come to realize that this is just part of the deal of growing and doing the best and doing something new that you haven't done before. Justice Sonia Sotomayor, who is not here in the pictures, said something also very encouraging about it. She said, "I'm not a classic imposter syndrome person because I have that initial insecurity, but I'm capable of stepping outside of it and proving to myself it's wrong." So she has the way of thinking out of it. Among the people that I watched TED Talks from this guy, Mike Cannon Brooks, I like his TED Talk among the most liked TED Talks. His was very sober and realistic approach to being a CEO of a huge company that suddenly grew into billions and billions. And he said something like, well, and here I am, a software guy who now has to make decisions about HR, about money, about people, about stuff that I've never had to deal with. And of course I feel out of my place. But as long as I keep being curious and keep the conversation going, I don't let myself sit in it. I don't let myself get stuck in it. Just keep talking, and keep talking to people who you know will support you. So that was a very excellent message that I got from him. So now we continue, and I'd like to start going through different mental traps that we get ourselves in. So the first thought we have, oh, I've been deceiving everybody, now they're gonna find out that I'm not as good as you think. Think of yourself, ask yourself, how long have you been feeling this way? If it's been years, if it's been decades, through all the schools, through all the university, through all the postdoc, through all the job, through all the everything, it could have been years. Well, congratulations. We may have found your greatest talent, because it takes a heck of a superpower to deceive so many people for so long. a thought has come to me at some point, and I remembered the first time I became a teaching assistant. So until then, I've never been on the other side of the class. And once I got to supervise a test and give a lecture, or just stand in front of the class versus in the back, I was amazed by how much the teacher sees, by how much we as students think that it is not obvious. Oh, no. It was funny, and it was amazing to see that teachers, especially when they see tens, hundreds of students walking before them, just as well as supervisors, managers, anybody, if you've ever been in the position of power, after a while, you can tell person's potential, you can tell person's skills if you pay attention, of course. And it's really, I guess, ambitious. It's really delusional to think that you have really been deceiving all these people for all this time. So it made me relax and suspect that not everybody's being nice. That if people are consistently saying stuff to me, that whatever they're saying, there must be some truth to it. And, comfort, discomfort, I can at least accept that this is reasonably true. Even not in my heart, but even in my brain, I can relax into thinking that this is true. Okay, now I'd like us to watch a video. This one.
I'm down 4% year to date. Everyone else is up double digits.
Oh, hold on, you don't see it. Hold on, I'm sharing. Wait. All right. You're sharing. Hold on. Maybe we have to exit this. Yes. Okay. Here. Okay. So if you would care to share any wisdom you have gotten out of this episode, I'm interested to see what stuck with you. And I'll share what was my favorite part. This is a part of the Billions show, the psychologist at a firm. All right, so the first part that stuck with me was Navy SEALs don't make mistakes. And as I said a few minutes ago, when you think about all the supervisors, all the places you work with, really trust that you got there for a reason, because they see people, they work with people for a long, long time. That's when we look at the environment, that's when we look at the structure we're in, feeling inadequate. The second part that is more important and that brings us back to ourselves is you're listening to the wrong voice. In reality, we all know there's two voices. We all know that one thing that we know when nobody's watching, and another thing when we're trying to please and perform and hearing the critic in our head. So tune in to the voice of your heart. Tune out the critic. Going back to the people that we work with. Here's one idea. If you read the story that I sent out with the registration, I was feeling very, at some point, bad because I was looking at who wrote how many papers, who did what, and really comparing myself to others. Why did I choose the criteria that I chose for comparison? It's hard to tell, but sometimes we get stuck, we get ideas in our mind that we just keep thinking this way. We keep looking at those things when in reality they may be very, insignificant. They may be irrelevant. What is the perfect athletic body? Look at this. Can you tell? It's perfect for its own purposes. Do not compare yourself to others, because in whatever you're doing, there is so many different styles for wherever you are. If you look at the strengths that you have, it doesn't matter what your neighbor is doing, because comparing ourselves to others will only exaggerate in our mind something that we think we're short of. And we forget to look at things that are our strengths. But on the other hand, I suggest you do compare yourself to yourself some time ago, because as we go forward, as we learn, we do get used to what we know. We forget that we didn't know most of this stuff even 10, 15 months ago. It's no longer exciting, it's no longer new, it's no longer challenging, so it becomes our baseline. And we are setting our goal to some next new, shiny, big thing that's challenging, that's interesting, that's exciting. And we forget that people, everybody around you, is likely not even aware of what you know. So while you're looking and comparing yourself to this circle of stuff that you don't know, you forget that you have made all this progress in all this time. So sometimes do this reality check and understand how much you actually know, how many skills you actually have. There's another thing that I noticed from my experience, and that was the reality check of where you are. I, at some point, realized my PhD bubble, where I thought, anybody can do that. Anybody can do what I'm doing because I have a husband who has a PhD. At my work, well, clearly everybody has a PhD. Our system administrator had a PhD. I go to church, our deacon is a professor, his wife, my Sunday school teacher, has a PhD. Every other person has a PhD. So to me, it was a very normal thing until somebody pointed out to me that this is not how most people live. You just happened to be around people of the similar, level. That's where you hang out. You hang out at work, you hang out at home, you hang out at church. Is that what you do? This is what you do. That's what people are, just because you live in an area that is so rich with research institutions. And so when you think anybody can do what I do, look around and look outside of your circle. Go to some, I don't know, giant Target somewhere else. Feel the real life. Think outside the bubble. Another thing that comes up quite a bit is I was lucky. And when you really think back, there's another thing I'd like to challenge here. When you think you got lucky, what really happened? Who were the people that participated? Lucky that you got into a good school? Well, was it luck? Maybe it was an opportunity that presented itself. And all these years of hard work that you put in before just made you equipped enough to take this opportunity. Maybe, people who provided this opportunity for you Maybe they saw something in you that made them speak up. Maybe they wouldn't offer this opportunity to anybody. So there may be more to luck than we give it credit, than we give ourselves, we give the environment credit for. We just think that it was a coincidence when there are some times, and there's nothing wrong with that. But very often, there's more of us in this luck than we care to admit. Now, getting closer to our inner selves, this is a big one, I think. We work so hard, we try to achieve so much because we equate our achievement with our own worth. And I just want you to let it sink. All this perfectionism, all this overworking, all this people pleasing comes from trying to fill this inner worth with what we do. And so once we understand this will be the first step to actually, detach your I am from your I do. If you understand that your inner worth, if you understand that your inner value is separate and it's not really affected by what or how much or what quality of stuff you do, then it frees you to make it gives you more liberty to make different choices. So the thing that you may start thinking about yourself is that you're a good person who sometimes make bad decisions or makes different choices. And really, when you look back, even when you think that you've made a mistake, very often it was the best choice, and I believe that always it was the best choice that you could make at that moment. You had an intention in mind, and you made the best decision you could at that moment. And the thing, if it didn't work out the way you intended, it doesn't mean it was a wrong choice. It just gave you an information. You know how now I know 10 or like 1,000 times how not to make a light bulb. That's that. So once you separate your I am from I do, now you may be more free to, hold on. There was a chat. You may be more aware of how you look at yourself. Because when you're trying to earn your worth, you constantly organize about how I look when I do work. Will it give me points? Will it take away from my points? That's where risk averse comes from. This is where control comes from really being worried about how will that affect my worth, my image. And so once your image stays untouched, the first step is really just to sit and dwell on this and see how it plays out for you, that my worth and what I do are not the same thing. Then you can shift your focus from how you look to what good does your work do to this world. You can think of the benefits of your work. Do you remember why you started it? Why you went into the profession or occupation or whatever it is you're doing? There was a good reason to do it. Did you try to make a world a better place? Well, now, do it. I've seen this formulated in many different ways. The ones that is easy to remember and that I liked it. It's called NATO, when you do something without being attached to outcome. So you are doing the best work you can, or do the best you can and be what may. I think that's what it says. So you're doing your best work, and the outcome is something that you cannot always control. You can control what you can do, and you relax into what comes out because you've done your best. If you read this story, I'd like to repeat this, because when I talked to my friend Christine, really this comes back to doing things all along and not being afraid of, the outcome that comes out. So my friend Christine recently shared a part of her journey which describes exactly that. She said, when I was promoted, I froze. I didn't celebrate because I didn't feel like I earned it, like I could actually step into that role of being a leader. And sometimes I still struggle with that, but I freaked out because now I thought I had to step up and do this and do that. But what was fascinating was that once I reverted, as I call it, and looked at it, I thought, damn girl, you're doing that stuff already. Why did you freak out? Just because the title scared you? Because I thought I had to do something different than what I've been doing, when actually what I was doing was actually what got me there. And if I kept doing it, I would have gotten further. Kind of funny, huh? So when you shift your focus from agonizing over myself to actually doing work, you understand the minimum requirements that are required, and you understand that you're more than fit because you have been doing it all along. And so this is what got you here, and this is what you're doing. And so keep doing what you're doing and put your focus into the good your work is doing in this world. Going deeper, going more into inside, there's one thing that we keep thinking, and I want to challenge that, really, really challenge that. Where did we get this idea that we have to earn everything, that we have to deserve things? Because that's really what it is. I don't deserve this praise. I haven't earned this recognition. Somebody's better than me because they have done more, because they earned it more. So what if I told you that you didn't have to earn everything, that you didn't have to even deserve everything? And really, what if the only thing you needed to do was to accept what you have with gratitude and make the best of it? Not because you deserved or earned it, but because it's okay to be loved, to be cared for. It's okay to be grateful to God if you're into God, if not, to nature, to random circumstances, because you have the talents, because you have the gifts that you have. And, they are what they are. You got them however you got them. What if you accepted your achievements, your position, your rewards, your skills, your talents at any level with gratitude to those who noticed and helped you, to those who cheered you up, to those who lifted and even occasionally carried you through your journey? Not everything you deserved, not everything you earned, but there were people who supported you. What if you cherished these gifts? Don't you feel disappointed when you give the gift to somebody and they don't care? Now, what if you collected all that praise, all the achievements, all the accolades, and put them together in a cherished place in your heart? They now become your treasure, your strength, your power. From now on, you can consider yourself a rich owner of that treasure and a manager of this wealth to do good. You can now use everything you learned, all the social lifts you rode to where you are, all the titles, all the letters behind your name as your platform to do good. You don't have to feel bad about it. You don't have to feel guilty. You accept it as a gift and you use it to advance your mission to teach students to do creative work, to do front of the line science or art, to manage super amazing projects. So remember about shifting your focus from worrying about your performance to doing good. What if you invested this newly found treasure into doing this good? What if you stopped worrying about your performance, detached from outcome, and put all the treasures, generously spiced with gratitude, to pour support and expertise, to pour knowledge into your project, your staff, your students, and to see what happens? Oh, I think you'll be surprised. So remember this. Gratitude is how you transform all the things that you used to fight against into something that you own and cherish, and that gives you energy instead of taking it. So I'll stop here, and I'd like to ask you, what are you taking away from this talk? What was probably of value to you? I will.
Hi, Maria. This is Catherine.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I feel this talk is very impressive, especially when you talk about not like don't compare with others, but compare with yourself. That's really helpful because during the work sometimes, I think probably because I'm afraid of making mistakes. So I want to try to do things great and make people like satisfied. So then I work all the time and also try to work hard. And once people praise you and you also want to do much better, and then it's into a bad circle, and you continue like doing not very like good environment for yourself. So yeah, I think this talk is really helpful. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else is brave to share?
Yeah, I'll just add on to that. That idea of going from what was it, unconscious not incompetence. There we go. Unconscious incompetence, and then up the ladder to unconscious mastery. And I think that's a useful reminder, because you're always learning new stuff and gaining new skills, and taking the time to look back and go, okay, this thing that I'm doing now would have been really hard for me a year ago, and now I'm doing it. It's not a big problem. Look, I've really grown. That's a helpful reminder to have.
I know that, thank you, Sam, that with myself, sometimes it just helps to stop and reflect, because in constant running towards new goals, new achievements, it's like you're always looking focused on something and you want to get there faster than everybody else. You want to, do the best work. You don't want to mess up. But when you actually stop and breathe and realize how far you have come already, you may be impressed, and you may be, I think it's good to do that, to sometimes just stop and reflect. Yes, thank you. And Claire, I see your notice on luck, about in tune with, it was luck when it's actually hard work. But we're so used to doing hard work that we don't pay attention to actual opportunities that we just catch because we were prepared to get this opportunity. So there's one last thing. This is an offer I have for those who want to go deeper into this topic. I have started a coaching group that goes on every month has a new topic. So this month's topic is imposter syndrome. And I will share a slide to tell you about it if you want to hear it. So September group is short. So September has only 2 weeks. So for the remaining 2 weeks, the way it's going to happen is people who sign up, I will lead the group, and the topics will be the actual achievements, strengths. We will go through, we will inventory them, we will look at what they are, our relationship with it, what we think is luck, what we think is work, and we may be surprised there. And second is actually inventory of job skills that are needed, the growth points, the whatever it is we think about work, and we'll look at how we fit into this work, and again match the picture and see what needs actual work. So I will be sending out a weekly exercise with instructions with the worksheet, and then we will meet in Zoom like today, maybe in Skype, depending who signs up, and we will go over this exercise. We will go through whatever came up for you, wherever you still feel held back, and I will provide actual feedback. There will be a closed Facebook group for all the participants to keep the discussion going, and I will be providing feedback both on the calls. We'll be asking questions. I will be giving suggestions, maybe some resources that I met on the topic during those calls, and on Facebook. There will be groups of no more than 6 people, so that everybody has an opportunity to work through their own issues. So a month long or 2 weeks long gives you time to apply the insights. When you're brewing in the same topic for some amount of time, sometimes we hear something and then we forget because we go on to other things. Or sometimes we talk about whatever it is we're talking about, and then it clicks tomorrow, or a week from now, something clicks. And the biggest questions come when we start applying things. So the most pointed questions, the most useful questions come when we actually start doing stuff. So 2 week or 3 week, actually, if you count from today, almost 3 weeks, it will give you time to process all the information, to work through, to ask questions, to receive feedback, to get used to the new reality you want to create for yourself. Because it's a group for people who clearly are working on the same topic, it will give you space to talk about imposter syndrome. That's the point where we all know, but nobody talks about it. This is a place to tell, to talk, to get it out. And while you're talking, you may surprise yourself by the connection you will make that you never thought of when you thought about it in your head. This will be a group of people who get you, who don't just understand theoretically, but they get you from inside. And when you see somebody working through the same issues, the collective wisdom is just amazing, because if somebody with different background, different worldview solves the same problem, you can be amazed of how you could never think about the same thing in a similar way. It gives you more options that you can generate yourself. And of course, it's much cheaper than even one personal coaching session. So right now in chat, I will put a link to this opportunity. You can go and sign up. And I'll go back to my sharing. So if you sign up until end of tomorrow, because you came to this webinar because you made it live for me, I'll be very happy to give you a discount tomorrow night, $23.59. It will go to $67. Today it's $59, tomorrow it's $59. So if you have any questions about this offer, about any of the other questions, I'll stick here until all the questions are answered. And here we are. So do you have any questions about anything that I have said? Hold on.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back to the imposter syndrome stuff. So it seems like there's a particular conflict between, like, sort of when you're applying for a job, saying you need to sell your skills and your ability to do the job, with feelings of imposter syndrome, that you're not good enough to be in your current job, so how could you possibly be good enough for this other one, right? So that, I'm curious if you have any thoughts on that particular angle.
The thoughts that come up to me right now is that I once worked with a person who wanted to change her jobs. And then we talked a little bit, and we looked at this issue from different perspectives. And then she said, the job doesn't matter. I will take myself with me to whatever job I go. And one way to go about it would be to get that imposter syndrome sorted out before you even apply for a job. Whatever it takes you, whatever you need yourself to feel more comfortable in your own skin when you go to that interview. Before you go there, just be, understand that this is, well, first thing, understand that this is normal. This is growth. You're not sitting managing, something smaller than you are. You're actually doing something big, and you're actually applying to do something even bigger. It's okay to be nervous. It's okay to be uncomfortable. And the second thought that comes to me is, speak facts. You don't have to make yourself bigger than you are. You know for a fact what you can do. So I know I can code whatever codes I can code. I know, I've seen the result of my work, regardless of how I feel about it. But the actual factage in the resume, it doesn't have to lie, it has to be true. And when you're looking at that factage, that's where I will stop for now. But is that enough, or is there another piece that you're still missing from my answer?
No, those are good thoughts. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, thank you. Thank you all for coming. I'm happy that we finished within an hour. That's how I promised it would be, and I am glad that we did. And I'm willing still to stick around if you have any more questions. I will send a recording to everybody who registered tomorrow morning, probably not today. I need time to process it. And you will have my contact information if you need anything else about this topic, or in the next few months, I will do more webinars in October. I will do another webinar now on laziness, procrastination, and self-sabotage. So that's the topic for October. And for November, we'll be looking at the inner critic. I am the biggest critic of myself. So that would be in November, and you will get announcements. I will have your emails because you registered for this webinar. All right, I thank you for your attention, and I will hopefully see you again sometime soon in our future events. All right, bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.